last video, we tore down our one of just 250 Callaway tuned Land Rover V8s. Yes, that is right. Callaway once tuned a Land Rover. Well, a Range Rover to be specific, and we here at the ranch got our hands on it. Today we finish up prepping this guy for a repower in one of our Land Rovers here at the ranch. We obviously have several of them laying around here, but we have a neat transmission to go on the back of this thing, and we're gonna repower one of them. And I wanna know if you guys can guess down below which one it's gonna be. Is it going in the Nada? Maybe we're doing a manual swap in the Eco and fitting a nice Callaway V8 in it. Otherwise, we got the Kalahari. We have the Vitesse. Maybe the Range Rover camper. Don't forget we still have the G4. Maybe a C10 pickup. I'm gonna say probably not that. And you can probably guess it's obviously not going in the LS3 swap Defender. What one do you think it's gonna be? But either way, today we get this guy back together in kind of a homebrew manner. So I suppose since we're this far in on the Callaway engine, we may as well take a peek at one of the other common problems with the Rover V8. That involves getting all this off. Guess it's off. In typical Land Rover fashion, we wouldn't want to have the same size bolt head on one part. They want to make sure you get to use all the tools that you paid for. Looks like a fairly new water pump, but that guy will probably get replaced anyways. I think we should probably replace the filter as well. Right in there is what we want to check out. Well, that part doesn't look too shabby. And the gear doesn't look too bad. But this guy right there is another common failure point on these Rover V8s. Outside of the head gaskets, sleeves, we can have an oil pump gear go bad. And usually these get pretty chewed up, and then we got no oil pressure, and when you got no oil pressure, bad things happen. We'll get this guy cleaned up and get a better look at it, but I think it might be all right. So we have all the parts to clean up on the Callaway engine. So we went ahead and got ourselves a parts washer. We used to have one of these, but back when we had the auction for the dealership, we sold it. So yeah, now we got another one. We only have one problem with this guy, and that is we're gonna have to keep this guy in the house. Eventually, this will go back into the shop, but for now, no heat in the shop with liquids. Doesn't really go together, at least from my past experience. I guess it's a good thing I get to make the calls on what can be inside the house, but I think this will make a good spot for it. We got detailing stuff and a clean Disco 2 dash. You guys saw how dirty these were before. It never ceases to amaze me. This is just a 50-50 mix of mean green. Usually either use this or simple green, but let these guys sit overnight. Didn't even brush it yet or anything, and look at how clean the rocker arms came. Does wonders. I would say there's not a whole lot that is classier than a nice driveway rebuild. So is there a smarter move than spraying a bunch of water on yourself when it's 36 degrees out? It's 36 Fahrenheit for the people across the pond, or near freezing. I'm a little cold now. All right, we got it blown off. Now we're just gonna coat it with some WD-40 just to keep everything from flash rusting until we get it all reassembled tonight and fresh oil back in it. We don't need pinpoint accuracy for this. I'm telling you, we got quite the hillbilly setup going on. Pressure washing outside in the freezing cold, parts washer in the house. Look at how dirty the degreaser got. And we're in the laundry room rinsing the parts off. And we got the wood stove drying parts. So now that we got the cylinder heads cleaned up and checked out, we're gonna go ahead and pull the valves out so we can pop some new valve seals in and lap the valves themselves to clean up the seats. So we have the valves nice and sealed up. A little movie magic, but Ted went ahead and did the driver's side cylinder head already. We got the valves cleaned up, new valve seals in. Just need to pop the springs on. And now that we had a quick refresher lesson from Ted, I'll go ahead and take care of the passenger side one. And I watched the first one so I can come in and do this one and look like I know what I'm doing and feel smart. So we got everything in order. That's from the other cylinder head. This is all the stuff we just pulled off. And this cylinder here is the one that had the 55% leak down. And the seat itself doesn't look anything too terrible, but we do have some heavy carbon right near the spark plug hole there. And the backside of this valve has a little bit more carbon than any of the others. So I imagine this one will seal back up, and we probably just had a chunk of stuff preventing it from fully seating. Got quite the professional machine shop going on here, but this is much nicer than my driveway. With the valves out and the intake port cleaned up, you can kind of see how they ported right before it comes into the cylinder as well. And it's a little hard to see, but they also have the valve guides almost like knife edged in there. Pretty neat. So it's a little heavier port work on the chamber side of things. So I think just lapping this guy in will solve that problem. For that, we got some valve grinding compound, just like a little paste with some grit in it, kind of like a liquid sandpaper. Ted's got the other cylinder head all ready to go. I got the valves popped in, threw a little oil on, so we don't tear up the fresh valve seals. Old ones are now a bit chooched. So we got the cylinder heads back here at the ranch, along with the block all cleaned up. Ted's one garage we were in there has much better amenities than I currently have here at the ranch. We're missing heat, missing a TV, and missing more random Land Rovers. But on the front of the shop, as you can see, there is stuff missing out of that horde of Volkswagen parts that I purchased. They're starting to move, and we're starting to free up some room again, which is fantastic. And after we get this Callaway engine together, we get to go back and focus on insulation and getting some heat in this thing so we can be fancy like Ted. But no, really, I just need to have some heat so we can get the LS3 Defender all buttoned up. The good news is Mother Nature brought out the heat today, and it is December in Iowa, and we have a sunny 55-degree day. That don't happen too often. So what we're going to start off with is getting the cylinder heads on while we got everything cleaned up. Got to put them in the right end. Now the studs themselves don't have to be crazy tight in the block, just snugged up. All the actual torquing is done through the nut side on the cylinder head. That's kind of neat. They got the bumped up compression ratio marked on the block as well. So the head gaskets on these guys will fit either way, and not all of them are marked, but the easy way to remember which side is up is the more metal goes towards the cylinder head. You can see there's less going on there. So all these face up, so we will just slide on just like that. Then we can slip the cylinder head on. We got the garage door cracked for Sasha so she can soak up a little bit of the remaining sun. We're running out of it for the year, Sasha. Next up, we have the washers, and for those, we want to make sure the cylinder head mounting surface there is clean and dry. We don't want any oil or debris messing with the torque values. Last part is obviously the nuts, and for those, we got ARP Ultra Torque. It's not just regular torque, it is Ultra Torque. Put a little bit of this on the bottom side of the nuts and on the threads of the stud. A few years ago, ARP did update the final torque value. I believe it used to be 100 foot-pounds, but now it is 70. So we're gonna do 25, 50, then 70, and we'll work from center out. So we have it at 25. Bump it up to 50. This digital stuff's awful nice. Fancy technology for me. 70. Just so we have some lube on everything until the oil gets pumped up through. Don't need to be dry firing anything. And we used our fancy box last time to make sure our push rods stay in order. And since we're this far in, we may as well grab the right size socket. We have a new timing chain set laying around, so may as well put it on. So on the oil pump front, the one that came out has a tiny bit of pitting and a little wear on the sides. That's about as good as they usually look coming out of these things, so we could reuse that without any real ill effects. But I keep one in stock, so we'll put a fresh one in. Then what I do is take some Vaseline and pack that gear. That way we have instant suction on the first startup. So the oil pickup is right there, and with that Vaseline in there, it's gonna create pressure way faster and less chance of running this gear dry and scoring it up. Now that we got our new gear locked in there and our timing stuff all sorted, we got all our gaskets laid out. Let's get this guy all sealed back up. Went ahead and pulled a smooth move and dropped the bolts down the drain. There's one, two. My magnet's too fat to fit down there, so we improvised. We're starting to run low on parts. That's a special piece there. And went ahead and got new copper crush washers for everything that needs that. So we're gonna go ahead and put those on before we put these guys in. We are really starting to look like we got something here. We got a fresh water pump, needs to go there. Another neat thing I noticed was these cylinder heads right there are actually stamped Callaway. This one is marked 1176 and the other side is 1200. But another thing to make note of, if you are ever looking at a Discovery or Range Rover or something with this 3.5, 3.9, 4.2, 4.0, 4.6 Rover V8, if you happen to look in the engine bay and you see a set of studs like these instead of a bolt head like that, you definitely know that the head gaskets have been replaced and they upgraded to studs. It's nice that you can see that externally. Before you put the oil pan on, don't forget to put the pickup tube in there. It's kind of an important piece. Don't ask me how I know that can happen. It's real interesting trying to figure out why the engine you just put back together doesn't have oil pressure. It's not a good thing. As it turns out, this is kind of a vital piece to the health of the engine. Having the engine on its side sure makes filter installation much more convenient. White's not a great color though when you got dirty hands. So there is our freshened up Callaway Land Rover engine. I think this guy is now in good shape to repower one of the Land Rovers here at the ranch. I just know, coupled with the fun little R380 transmission we have sitting in the back corner for it, that this is going to make a really fun project and a Land Rover that I'm just gonna love cruising around in. As I alluded to earlier in the video, my intentions were to never go at this as a full rebuild, so this was just a refresh and pretty much just a reseal. I wanted to make sure everything was gonna be tight, and then while we were in there, we may as well put the head studs and some fresh head gaskets, and it was nice to get a good in-depth look at the condition of this guy before we toss it in the new Land Rover. And cleaning up the valve seats and lapping those valves back in, went ahead and took care of our sealing issue on number 8 that we had. So this guy should be nice and healthy and ready to repower that Land Rover. So with that being said, now I have to sit down and figure what I want to use for engine management on this guy. I'm leaning towards a Mega Squirt setup, but if you have other ideas, let me know. And I want to keep the GEMS intake manifold setup on here. Beans, it says Callaway. It's kind of neat. I wouldn't want to lose that. So it's going to use this throttle body. Otherwise, I would have went to a distributor front cover, 4-barrel intake, and threw a Holley Sniper on it. So we'll go a different route. Like I said, I'm thinking maybe Mega Squirt. Haven't played with that on a Land Rover engine yet. So this may be a good one to give that a shot. But with that being said, I appreciate you guys watching, and if you enjoyed going through this one of 250 unique Callaway tuned engines, give us a like down below, and as always, we'll have some more neat Land Rover stuff in the future. We'll catch you guys on the next one, and hopefully it'll be much warmer. That's the plan, at least.